there has been a lot of conversation about potentially bringing back the race. What do you think really needs to fall into place to make that a reality?
On October 27, 2013, Sebastian Vettel stepped out of his Red Bull, dropped onto his knees and bowed to his car at the Buddh International Circuit in Greater Noida. It was his fourth consecutive World Championship, and the moment, now known as bowing before the bull, still circulates among old-school F1 fans as one of those images that makes you stop and think, India had this. India was genuinely at the center of F1. The crowd roared, the drivers loved the sweeping turn 10 to 11 complex, the FIA had no complaints about the track. By every sporting measure, the Indian Grand Prix was a success. So, why did it disappear after just 3 races? Hello folks, I'm Shashank and you're tuned into FinshotsTV. Today we're getting into what happened to India's F1 race, why it left and what it would actually take to bring it back, including a very fresh twist that just emerged this week. The short answer to why F1 left India is taxes. The JP Group, which built and hosted the race, found itself caught in a minefield of regulatory disputes. The event had been classified as entertainment rather than sport, which triggered heavy tax liabilities. Payments made to F1 management got dragged into withholding tax disputes, where authorities argued that tax should have been deducted before hosting fee was sent abroad. Teams bringing cars and equipment ran into customs complications at Indian ports, costs kept rising, legal uncertainty kept mounting, and the race was quietly dropped after the 2013 season. India was off the calendar, and as tends to happen in F1, someone else was more than happy to take that spot. Now, over a decade later, there is a fresh momentum around bringing F1 back. With JP Group no longer in the picture, the Adani Group has been exploring a potential takeover of the Buddh International Circuit. Karan Adani said at a public event just last month that he's, and I'm quoting directly here, very personally engaged in bringing F1 back to India.
And we are very excited to, I'm personally driving it and I'm very personally engaged in terms of bringing Formula One back into India.
The sports minister has also spoken about handing over long-term management of the circuit to a professional sports management company. The intent, at least on paper, is there. But intent and execution are two very different things in India. And before we get to the twist in the story, let's understand what the bar actually looks like now, because F1 in 2026 is a completely different beast from F1 in 2013. Netflix's Drive to Survive turned F1 from a very niche sport into a global entertainment property. The F1 movie expanded that further. The sport cracked the American market with races in Miami, Austin, and Las Vegas. Middle Eastern governments treated it as a soft power asset. Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Abu Dhabi hosted F1 races as strategic investments in tourism, global visibility, and national branding, and not for profit. The hosting fee alone runs between $20 to $60 million per race. Now, the bar to get on this calendar and stay on it is significantly higher than it was a decade ago. So what would bring F1 back to India actually require? The first issue is money and government commitment. F1 races are not self-sustaining events, you know that. You can't rely on ticketing and sponsorship alone to recover costs. Either the central government, state government, or ideally both would need to treat this the way other countries do, as a strategic investment rather than a commercial event. Without that backing, the financial risk is too concentrated on a single promoter. The second issue is taxation clarity. Motorsport has since been classified as a sport rather than entertainment, which resolves part of the original problem. But the Supreme Court ruling that shut India out the first time was specifically about FOWC's permanent establishment in India. The court concluded that because Formula One World Championship had complete control over the Buddh International Circuit before, during, and after the race, they had a taxable presence in India. And revival needs a clean, stable legal framework on this. Formula One contracts typically run for 3 to 10 years. If the regulatory environment can shift mid-cycle, private capital simply will not commit. Now, the third issue is surrounding infrastructure. Formula One today is a weekend-long spectacle built around hospitality, concerts, luxury tourism, and corporate networking. Yes! Las Vegas and Miami don't just provide a track. They actually build a whole experience around it. India already has a world-class circuit. What it needs now is a airport capacity. 5-star hotel availability, corporate hospitality infrastructure, and a high-end tourism ecosystem around the event. The Adani Group's footprint across airports, logistics, and urban infrastructure is actually relevant here. The ability to integrate all of this into one ecosystem is a real advantage when pitching to F1. The fourth issue is the calendar. See, F1 now runs 24 races. Teams have repeatedly flagged concerns about travel fatigue and logistical strain. Adding India means either expanding the calendar further or displacing another venue. The most logical fit would be anchoring an Asian leg between Japan and Bahrain or after Singapore. But that requires coordination with F1's broader scheduling priorities, something India can lobby for but not control. The fifth issue is commercial visibility. Without strong domestic corporate sponsorship, banks, conglomerates, domestic brands anchoring year-round deals, the financial burden falls disproportionately on the government or the promoter. In markets where F1 works, it's embedded in a network of corporate partnerships that go well beyond the race weekend itself. So the conditions for return are government backing, taxation clarity, infrastructure ecosystem, calendar fit, and domestic commercial appetite. All five need to align. That's a high bar, but not an impossible one.
Let's add that to the words of wisdom.
Now here's where the story gets complicated. Just last week, there was a fresh legal battle that has thrown the entire revival plan into uncertainty. The Buddh International Circuit sits inside a larger pool of assets belonging to the now bankrupt Jayaprakash Associates, a 57,000 crore rupees debt default that sent the group into insolvency in June 2024. The assets include residential projects, cement plants, power units, and the circuit itself. A portfolio valued at roughly $4 billion. Multiple bidders came forward: Adani Enterprises, Vedanta Dalmia Cement, Jindal Power, and others. Adani Enterprises submitted a bid of 14,535 crore rupees. Vedanta, the mining and metals conglomerate run by Anil Agarwal, submitted a higher bid of approximately 16,726 crores. Now, we'd assume the higher bid wins, right? But the committee of creditors chose Adani's lower bid, and the reason matters. Adani offered roughly 6,000 crore rupees upfront and committed to a 2-year repayment timeline. Vedanta's payout stretched over 5 years. Under India's insolvency and bankruptcy code, the highest bidder does not automatically win. Creditors can prefer a lower offer with faster, more certain cash flows. The NCLT approved Adani's plan in March 2026. Anil Agarwal did not take this quietly. On March 29th, he posted on X invoking the Bhagavad Gita, referencing conversations with JP's founder, and claimed Vedanta had been declared the highest bidder publicly and informed in writing that we had won before the decision was reversed. Vedanta first challenged the NCLT decision at the NCLT. The appellate tribunal declined to stay the resolution plan, and now Vedanta has filed a petition at the Supreme Court seeking a pause on the acquisition. The Supreme Court has not ruled yet, but the implications are significant. Until there is legal clarity on who actually owns the Buddh International Circuit, no infrastructure upgrades can begin, no government negotiations can be finalized, and no commercial agreements can be signed with Formula One. India's F1 comeback, already a decade overdue now, depends on how quickly the courts resolve a corporate battle between two of India's largest conglomerates. Now here's the honest picture. India has everything it needs to host F1. The audience, the circuit, the aspiration, and now apparently the corporate appetite. What it has consistently lacked is the institutional stability to bring all of that together. The first time around, it was taxes. The second attempt is now stuck in an insolvency dispute. Formula One doesn't fail in India because of the sport. It keeps running into the version of India that can't get out of its own way. If the Supreme Court rules in Adani's favor, the revival is still possible. If the case drags on for years, India may find itself off the grid again. Not because the track isn't good enough, but this time because the system around it isn't. Now that's a pattern worth watching. Anyway folks, that's it for today. Let me know what you think in the comments. I will see you in the next one.